OT excitement for the Utah Hockey Club. A huge win over the Vancouver Canucks. Packed house. Plus, we got a Minnesota preview. Tom Callahan, Robyn Leonio coming at you right now with a Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning us in and making us your first listen every single day when it comes to the Utah Hockey Club. I am former NHL voice Tom Callahan, joined by longtime team analyst Robyn Leonio. We are the dynamic duo that talks Utah Hockey Club. Thanks for being here. Subscribe if you haven't already. We appreciate you being here. Want to let everybody know today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Robyn, it was a packed house. It was an OT winner by a guy who probably needed a rope to be towed off the ice at the end of his shift. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we got a Minnesota preview. This is a packed show.
Oh, it's a very packed show. But you know what? I'm excited because, hey, we're talking about just another win, and it just feels so good to be on the right side of things again. It's amazing.
It is kind of fun, isn't it? It's fun to talk about winning. Everybody sings when you're winning, right? I mean, especially at home. That's the other thing. They've been doing great on the road, not so great at home, but a packed house. I want to talk about this first because it was a Wednesday night against Vancouver. First time that team had ever been there. Nobody really knew Vancouver. Their star power, but not if you're not a hockey fan, right? I mean, they're not bringing Connor McDavid, who everybody knows. But Ryan Smith did something really cool and just had that place rocking.
Oh, it was really cool. And I think that was a really unique thing. And I think I started seeing it on Twitter. And from my understanding, Tom, it started off as I think people reached out to him. It's like, hey, I'd like to, I'd like to watch a game one day. Or someone just asked for free tickets or whatever it was. He was willing to give away his suite at first, but then so many people had put in that request and say, hey, I want in on this too. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to open up a whole section of tickets we're just going to give out for free. Let some people come and enjoy some Utah Hockey Club action.
So it was 2,000 tickets, or at least 2,000 tickets. And some of them were the obstructed view seats, which they almost never open up. But they threw the doors open, said, if you want to come on down, come on down. And Robyn, I looked at the sheet earlier, but now I got to cheat and look at it again. 11,131 at Delta Center for that win over the Canucks in OT. That is just a fantastic number of fans coming on a Wednesday night. And I know there's other fans around the league going, that's a tiny building. It is not an 18,000 seat venue, but I think those are kind of passé and a little too big now anyway. Like 15 to 16 is the sweet spot these days. But more importantly, Robyn, no one gets that on a weekday game. No one packs their house on a weekday game. Oh, very few teams. Let me say that. Very few teams sell out the weekday games.
I mean, yeah, we're talking about, especially on a Wednesday night, people, like a lot of people don't want anything else to do on their hump day. They got, they got work the next morning too. People are just like, what? No.
Some people have church on Wednesday nights. So, I mean, that's something that keeps people from other activities on a Wednesday. So, it's not easy to play a Wednesday night game, but kudos to Ryan Smith for being proactive.
Yeah, and especially I think taking advantage of what he realized is the high level of interest on it. And it could go for a number of different reasons. Maybe you're a fan that just couldn't otherwise afford going into a game. Maybe you can, but you just kind of wanted to figure out, is this Utah Hockey Club, is this NHL level hockey for me? I don't know. I've never been to a hockey game before. I'd like to try it out. And I think that's kind of what it's geared towards because, look, we already know the team is not going to be worrying for, filling the stadium, filling the arena, but you can always get more fans. You can always build lifelong fans. And I think that's what Ryan Smith did. And it's really cool. It's like these free tickets he gave away, people had an amazing experience, an amazing win, watching a solid win. And heck, now you got more fans for life.
So I'm thinking about it as we're talking here because I saw yet another team is jumping on the bandwagon of the cheaper concessions, which Utah Hockey Club has done. This time it is the Phoenix Suns. So Robyn, you're sitting right there. I'm sure you can speak to that, but they've gone with an inexpensive menu. A lot of other teams have done that, but Utah Hockey Club was way out in front of this. They did it months ago before they even started playing at Delta Center. They said, here's what we're going to do for families and to make it affordable, even like a date night type of thing, whatever it is, or you're just coming out with your buds. That was awesome. Then they had all these season ticket deposits and demands, and then they decided they were going to keep some seats back. And of course, the obstructed view, they don't always release. But then just to open it up like this, to get people in there and couple all that with the excitement of the win and the fact that they've been playing pretty well lately. And everybody was talking about it after the game, Robyn. The players were excited. Andre Tourney was excited. You could clearly see that Ryan Smith was excited. I think this is Big Mo right now in Utah.
It really is amazing, Tom, to see the difference between the UHC of December versus the UHC of November. Very different kinds of mood that we are experiencing in the building, in the locker room, from the coaches, just from the overall vibe. Everyone's having a fun time.
They're having a blast. And now they saw Utah get within a point of being in the playoffs. So they're right there on that cusp. And I was talking about it. Now going to overtime, there's a reason why you want to win games in overtime if you go past regulation and not a shootout, because in a tiebreaker, more weight is given to an overtime win than a shootout win.
For those that are maybe want to take a look at, if you're looking at the standings and trying to wondering what that is, if you see a stat line that's kind of listed on those tiebreakers, if you see something that says ROW, ROW, it's an acronym for regulation and overtime wins. And that includes, well, as I heard it, regulation overtime wins. Does not include the shootout wins, which is what Tom is referring to.
So when it comes to playoff tiebreakers, and it has come down to that in the past, if you have a team, same points, and maybe the same number of regulation wins, they go to regulation and overtime wins. So they always put the impetus on the teams. You may not be thinking about it in October, November, December, but boy, you're sure thinking about it in March, when you might need more row. And so if you ever hear the term row, that's what it is, regulation and overtime wins.
And it really is an important thing. And I think, of course, not only that, just in general, adding that extra standing point still does help make that difference too.
And it's way more exciting to win an OT.
Oh yeah.
Especially the way that game ended.
I mean, look, I wouldn't consider myself a massive opponent of shootouts. I understand its necessity, but I'm with you. Like, right, overtime wins, sudden death overtime wins mean a whole lot more to me. They're a lot more exciting because it's one goal wins the game versus in a shootout in which it's a skills competition. It's just a skills competition at that point.
Robyn, I was already broadcasting pro games when the shootout came to be. And at first I was upset. I was going to die on my hockey purist soapbox. Why are we doing this? Woe is me. We're ruining the game. 3-on-3 overtime. We're ruining the game. And then I saw two things. Number one, and this is really 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. They're all the same reason. Fan excitement. The fans love it. The fans love 3-on-3 overtime. The fans love a shootout. No one sits during a shootout. So when I saw that response to it, I said, you know what? Okay, that was a good call. We're not leaving with no winner anymore. There's no ties. It's not like kissing your sister. So we have a decided winner now. And then the 3-on-3 overtime is incredibly exciting because teams have stopped. A couple of years ago, do you remember this, when it was all about just hanging on to the puck for all 5 minutes and getting like two shots? It's not like that anymore. Teams try to press pretty quick now.
They really do. And and I think it's because we're seeing the different kinds of testament of what kind of game we're seeing, right? We're coming back into a game in which speed matters. But speed and size, and if you can force yourself to the net and get a good shot on, I mean, heck, you're gonna eventually get the win, and it's gonna create that level of excitement, especially if you get a beautiful snipe of a shot. And that goes for both the 3-on-3 overtime as well as the 5-on-5 overtime that we see in the playoffs in the postseason. Which I'll tell you, Tom, when that comes to happen, that is my favorite thing in the world.
Yes, absolutely. Sudden death in the playoffs. Oh, there's nothing better. It's fantastic. I agree with you.
It's those that maybe haven't experienced it yet. If you're a new hockey fan, new NHL fan, the moment you do experience it, you guys are gonna have a love. Your heart rate's gonna go up because if it is your team, if it is Utah that's in there, you're gonna feel the torture. But it's so exciting when it gets to it's just crazy when it gets to 3 overtimes.
Everything matters. Everything matters.
I will tell you this, Tom. I'll give you a little we're up on against the break here in a sec, but I do want to say this as a level of how amazing overtimes are and how exciting they can be. Also, but how stressful and torture they can be, as I mentioned earlier. Everyone knows I've mentioned to you, Tom. I'm a Sharks fan through, born and raised. When the Sharks were in the playoffs in 2016, I think they were a game against the Nashville Predators. They went to I think a third overtime, or whatever it was, close to a fourth overtime. My heart rate was easily 200 plus. And I wasn't even at the game. I wasn't even there. I was watching it on TV.
You actually had 3 different hearts doing the work for you because you grew some extra ones just so they could beat faster.
Yep.
It was fantastic.
It was absolutely insane, but I loved it. It was a great that's what makes me love it. It makes me appreciate the game even more when you get that level of excitement.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, let's talk about the actual game here. Let's get on to that.
We'll do that right after this. Hey, and today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. If you love sports, you're going to love Prize Picks. It's the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. Right now, you can win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Pixmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, Prize Picks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. This week on Prize Picks, I'm taking a look at all over the hockey board. Maybe I'm taking a look once again at Logan Cooley, if he's going to get 5 or more shots on goal. Or maybe I'm looking at Oli Mate. Is he going to get more than 25 minutes on ice? What is it going to be? I have so many options to choose from. Prize Picks is an amazing place to do it. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly. Prize Picks, run your game.
All right, Robyn, we got to talk about this OT excitement because it kind of, for me, watching this game, I will take you through my emotions, okay? First period, fairly happy puppy, tail wagging. They did their job. Nobody scored, which is, I had hoped Utah would score, but they did not. I'm like, well, could be worse. Shots were 9-4. They kept Vancouver to 4 shots in the first period. So for the most part, I'm happy. Second period, Vancouver scores the only goal, and it's on the power play, and they outshoot Utah 10-9. And I start thinking, it just crept in. I'm like, well, they're due for a nap. And I thought they ended up taking a couple of naps at different times. But they started the third period by giving up a goal less than 3 minutes in. And I went, no, this is exactly what you didn't want to do, Utah Hockey Club. And forgive me, but I started wondering if it was going to be a little bit more of the same. So this is the state of my roller coaster was now down here. I was at the dip. And I did not know the hill that we were going to climb there in that third period emotionally. But, Even strength and power play goals. Again, special teams, huge. So Keller at 902, and then Gunther's 14th with
Mhm.
a bit of puck luck, right? Goes in off a defenseman at 15:30, and that sets the stage for a wild OT. It was awesome.
It really is awesome. And I think, Tom, it really speaks to the resiliency of this team. I've talked about it earlier this week and how important that is for this team. And how it's it seems to be a newfound resiliency, because we talked about what this team looked like just about a month ago, right? When that, like, if this was the same team a month ago, after that first goal in the third period, the game would have been over. It would have seemed like Utah was getting ready to collapse. But they didn't let that happen. And I think that's kind of, it really shows you the difference on really team growth and what it means to be resilient, not take your foot off even once. Not let yourself down if you're getting down like that, especially after a really early goal in the third period, as you mentioned. But hey, you know what? Coming back from it, keeping resilience, having the guys fight, even if it is puck luck, you still take every battle as it is, and that's what this team did.
They did, and you know what? They really, again, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier this week in the shows about the confidence. Kerfoot talking in the room on a practice day about the confidence, the belief, that just that thing, that intangible that is there and growing with this team, that they don't feel down or out of games, which, let's be fair, Robyn, you've been watching this team for a long time. There were times when they were both down and out of games, and frequently.
Oh yeah, it was so many times, and especially too, like they would have. To put it, there would be games in which this team first period would be amazing, right? Let's say they're up 3-0, all of a sudden they collapse, and then they're down and out for the rest of the game, and it got so frustrating that this team, as you would mention, would take naps, and all of a sudden, when they're out of the nap, they're now chasing the game, and it just looked so much worse, and you could just see the confidence was destroyed in those games. They just seemed like they were just done, and they were almost, I wouldn't even say that. It seemed they're just apathetic. That at their point, there's like they weren't even trying anymore to win that game. We're not seeing that anymore, which is a good sign, a very good sign.
Yes, it's a fantastic sign. And you know what, too, just looking at the power plays, I mean, Utah has the belief in its power play that they're going to go out and do something. Both teams are 1 for 3 on the power play in this game, but not a lot of penalties, which is good. First of all, Robyn, we've talked about needing the UHC to stay out of the box and stop doing the dumb stuff. And for the most part, they're kind of doing that now, which is actually a nice change, right? I mean, you're still going to end up in the box at some point, but now if we could just eliminate the naps and get 60 minutes of effort, I think you're going to turn the corner and be a playoff contender.
It really is amazing. Every little aspect that we've discussed on this show in the last week and today and the last month, the difference between, as I mentioned, the November UHC versus the December UHC. The November, even late October UHC was incredibly penalty ridden, especially a lot of those dumb penalties, and I think at that time too, I think technically still are, but the most penalized team in the National Hockey League. And it was frustrating because, as you and I would say, that some of them were just like dumb penalties that you just don't take on a good team does not take. And they've cut back on that this month. And as you said, they don't have to go through that anymore. Sure, they're still going to the penalty box. Every team does. Every team goes to the penalty box. But when you eliminate the unnecessary ones, you eliminate the loss of momentum.
And really, I mean, hockey is a game of momentum, but especially late in games, I think, honestly, going back, rewinding it to that 4-on-3 power play goal earlier in the week, that could have been a tipping point kind of moment where, I mean, the power play had been converting, but now it converts in probably the most important situation you faced all season. And now you get a late power play in the third period against Vancouver. You're down 2-1. You convert again. So as you do this, you increase the belief in yourself in these different aspects of your game. So now, Robyn, to me, the next thing you want to shore up is really the 5-on-5 mistakes, neutral zone, the cross ice pass,
those stretch passes.
there,
Oh,
there was one. Oh, also the other one that got me was the goal where somehow Nick Schmaltz was the last guy back, and he was trying to get out to get a change, and ended up having to pursue the puck carrier down the ice, and of course Vancouver scores. But what's going on on that one? Like that should not be Nick Schmaltz. That was the Dakota Joshua goal. Man, the D they got sucked in big time, and somehow one pinch, the other went with them, and you end up with a situation where Gunther was trying to get out of there. They didn't get the puck deep. It was picked off, turned over, boom, it's in the net. So those things to me are frustrating. Those are the naps. Those are the mistakes in judgment. So now we need to clean those up.
And I think those are easy to take care of, right? Those are coachable.
You would think, but guys keep doing it. Stop doing it. prove to me it's easy to fix. Stop doing it.
I mean, I guess let's just say that's the hope. That is the hope.
I mean, I don't know. It just reminds me of like when you get a little kid, you tell them not to do something, they do it, and somehow it either hurts them or it works against them or whatever. Did I tell you not to do that? Yeah, I know. Okay, well, if you know, then don't do it. So I don't know. It's easier said than done. I get it. And sometimes in the pressure of a game, everybody wants to do too much at one point or another. Just for your Utah Hockey Club, defensively, it seems like they all want to do too much at once, and it always just seems to end up in the back of the net. So if we get rid of those, I'll feel much more confident.
Get rid of
the team's heading.
And I think this especially goes to the youth, is get rid of trying to be too cute. Don't try to put the fancy, all the fancy moves out there. 9 times out of 10, it ain't working. Not in the National Hockey League.
If I had a nickel for every time somebody tries to dangle that one extra guy, and that's not how it works. Short, quick passes, change up the angle, get the shot through.
Just that. Sometimes that one extra toe drag is what's going to end it up. It's just going to end your rush.
But the thing is, 1 out of every 10 times it works and it looks amazing, right? Makes highlights all over the place, and everybody's like, "See, I can do it." It's like, well,
especially when they do, like, say, from toe drag to between the legs, backhand shot, top corner, like that.
It's got to become part of the game in an odd way. But I mean, guys like that shooting between the legs, that's just a thing now. Everybody's always going for the lacrosse goal, and I get it. They're not afraid to show the moves anymore, but sometimes simple is better. All right, we got to get to the Minnesota preview, Robyn. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were going to say something. Go ahead.
Yep, let's do it. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just getting, well, we should actually. Why don't we go ahead, break, and then talk Minnesota? All right, today's show is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So as we get back here into the final segment, Minnesota is the next team on the horizon here. And Robyn, I thought it was telling listening to Thursday's practice interview from Andre Tourny. The question was asked of him, and I'll be honest with you, this is not a question I would ask, but the question was asked, when did you start to believe that you could beat Minnesota? Now, number one, every coach believes they can beat every team every night. That's why they're a coach. But and AT was polite. He answered the question but said there was never a time where he didn't think they could beat Minnesota, but then kind of followed on to say, but where this team is playing right now, even though Minnesota's really good, he feels like, Utah Hockey Club matches up really well with the Wild, and maybe they are in the midst of a hot streak here right now that makes them the dangerous opponent against the Wild.
Yeah, I think it certainly is important. And it's nice that I think that extra level of confidence plus being on a hot streak, it makes all the difference on a team momentum. And as you mentioned, yes, Minnesota is a good team. And Yinya, as I also mentioned, it is a very awkward question to ask because everyone's confident. Coach is always going to say, yeah, we're going to try to win this game no matter what. That's how it's going to be. But you're right. There is that extra level of, I feel like this is going to be a better game. I feel like there is that extra level of confidence. I think especially because the last time these two teams played against each other, it was kind of right at the beginning of this emergence of getting, of shaking off the November blues.
It was the last home game, so it was the 10th. Of December, and it was that 5-4 shootout game that they lost to the Wild, but that was sandwiched around, that's part of the 4-0-1, right? They beat Buffalo, beat Philly, shootout point against the Wild, and then beat the Avs, beat the Sharks. Now they beat the Canucks in OT, so they've proven already they can hang with Minnesota as it is. And here's the other weird thing, Robyn. Remember, we talked about this all week, and it rears its ugly head again. Minnesota on the road, 12-2-3. Minnesota at home, 8-6-1.
It's amazing.
I don't get it.
Maybe it's just home ice advantage just doesn't exist anymore.
I don't get it. And especially like the XL Energy Center, awesome building, really cool place, great fans, but I don't know.
I've only been on the outside of that building. I've never gone inside. That was when I was on my tournament in Minnesota several months ago.
One of these days, we will have to break you in there. It is actually a very cool, like there are some buildings, even in today's day and age of new stadiums being built, new arenas, some of them are still pretty generic. That is not one of them. That one is really nice. It is very much about the fan experience.
I would definitely love to check it out someday. Honestly, I have it on my list. I want to get a map up here. Maybe it's going to replace, the picture I have there, even though it's kind of, you can only see half of it. Of all, of like where all the arenas are, and you can like put in like a little puck block of where of the ones you visited. I want to do that, kind of show, hey, I visited this one, I visited that one.
And I want to sneak in my sleeper pick for one of the best arenas in the NHL that no one ever talks about, Honda Center in Anaheim.
Yeah, I've never been there either. So
that place is amazing. Just a very quick story about the Honda Center. They had a construction budget underrun as opposed to overrun. So when they got to doing the finishes, because they were so far under budget with the way things worked out with the arena, everything in the hallway is finished in marble. It's palatial. Walking in there, the concourse is the nicest concourse I've ever seen anywhere. It's absolutely amazing. What a fantastic building.
I've only been on it to a few arenas here on the West Coast, and most of them, I'd say two of them weren't for NHL games. They were for NBA games, or not NBA games. They were for basketball games, because one was college basketball, in an NHL arena. So Staples Center, I went to a Kings game. A Lakers game. See, my brain, instantly. I went to a Lakers game, and then the T-Mobile Arena. I went to the Pac-12 tournament to watch the Wildcats win the championship. But
T-Mobile's also very cool.
T-Mobile Arena. Even when I was there for the basketball arena, it was amazing. It just feels. It felt new. Obviously, it was new at the time. It had just opened when I first went.
That's pretty cool. I actually saw a Henderson Silver Knights game there.
Ooh,
That's the event I've seen there, which is kind of weird, but they got the full VGK show. So that was neat.
Very neat. Anyway,
I'm sorry. We went way into the weeds. I'm so sorry. Let's get back to this. That's my
predictions for today's game.
Okay. Interesting. Where am I going to go with this one? So I really like the way Utah's playing right now. I think Utah's getting good goaltending. But I love Marc-Andre Fleury, first of all. And it's hard not to be impressed with what Minnesota has been doing this year because they put on the hard hat and they go to work. They've not scored the most goals in the league by far. They're at 99. They still haven't cracked the 100-goal plateau. So, Utah Hockey Club's got 94. And their goals against 86, still not the best. But somehow, Robyn, they're winning all these close games. So they're 28-4 going into this game. That's really impressive because if your team is strong enough and smart enough to win 1-goal games, that says to me you are being coached the right way, you're playing the game the right way, you're keeping the opponent chances to a minimum, and you're maximizing and capitalizing on your chances. So that is impressive with Minnesota. However, that said, I am going to ride the hot hand right now. I think Utah goes into XL Energy Center and comes out with 2 points.
I'm with you. To me, I feel like it's hard to pick against the hot hand. It's hard to pick against the Tide because, it just feels like that's where all that shift is feeling right now. Utah's been looking fantastic for the last, week plus at this point. It's nice to give it to them. It's nice to be able to give them a win of a hard fought game. And you can also add in, the road warrior aspect of, Utah being a great team on the road. Let's keep that action going.
I don't think that this team slows down again until Monday, the 23rd against Dallas. I think that that's the next real big test for them. That's going to be a tough one for them, but I think they win in Minnesota. I think they come back home on a day's rest and they beat the Ducks on Sunday at home. So I think that that's going to happen. And then Dallas on Monday is going to be the big pre-Christmas test. So I like where Utah is right now. I think they got a chance to put a great December in the books, not just good, great.
Yeah, and I'll say it one more time in case you weren't listening the first 5 times. The difference, it's just exciting to see, but that difference between November and December.
Yes, it is. It's different right now, and the vibes are high, right, Robyn? Isn't that what the kids say these days? The vibes are high.
Oh yeah, I love that. Any final thoughts before we close things off?
No, just looking forward to a great game. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. If you don't have anything else going on, it is a little earlier start. I do want to mention that to everybody because it's Minnesota Central Time. So this is a 6:00 Mountain Time start. And that's going to be something you want to pay attention to. So that'll be fantastic. Looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun.
Gotta love those earlier starts. Helps me out a little bit.
I do. Trust me. I love the earlier starts.
I don't like the late, even though I live in Arizona where it's mountain time. Like I don't have to deal with, I don't want to deal with 8 or 9 p.m. starts. It's too late for me. It's too late.
Yeah. Nope. I hear you.
Anyways, that's going to be it for this episode of the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you've yet to already. We are available everywhere you get your shows, including on YouTube. Hit the notification bell if you want to know every time we drop a new episode. Follow us on social media on Instagram, Threads, and X at @LO_. NHL Utah, also at Blue Sky, on Locked On Utah Hockey. I'm personally at Robyn_Leonio. That's on Twitter. And at Robyn Ice Time on Blue Sky. And Tom, where can they find you?
On Twitter, I'm at Callahan on air, and on Blue Sky, I am at Tom Talks. So, and hopefully I'll have a Tom Talks project coming up soon. I'm going to want to talk about, but that's not till the new year. So
interact with us, ask us any question. We might answer right back or on a future episode of a Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to this episode, and we will see you next time.